Okay, everyone, this is the first time I have run this because of lovely young Jimmy is the tech whiz and the presenter extraordinaire. So you're going to have to put up with me today. Hello to everyone. And we've also got Zak here as well.
Hi.
Zak, how you doing, buddy?
All right, thank you.
So anyone who doesn't know, everyone who doesn't know Zak, the G4 students probably won't know Zak because of Zak doesn't do the G4 teaching. He teaches the other lessons we do, the songs lessons and the jam lessons. But when we finally meet up again, I'm hoping everyone will have be able to have some sessions with Zak extraordinaire. How are they going, Zak? How are the lessons going?
They're going very interestingly. I get interesting songs to work out, and then I have to do videos of them. My students like videos, so I've been doing a lot of videos. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, me too. Actually, it's really I really like it because of I think the thing is for me, which I didn't realize till now, is if we give a bit of advice, then in a video, then the students can look back on that as many times as they like to see how everything exactly works. Cool, just looking at the feed here. I got Jason. Hello, Jason. Loving the look. Oh, thank you very much. I shaved a tash yesterday. I don't know why, just having a bit of fun. And we got Sepkin saying, hey, Zak is back. So some fans here. So Zak, yeah, we were talking before about a couple of things, top tips for any of the students that you might like to say. What advice do you have? What would you like to bring to the table today for our students?
Practice. Yeah, just practice.
That's a good start always, huh?
Always a good start. It really is worth practicing slowly, even if it feels possibly painful, possibly boring, because you just won't get it fast. Whatever you're trying to do, you won't get it fast unless you can do it slow. And the fastest way that's to get you to playing it at a tempo that you want to play it at is to start slowly and get all the movements right. You know, if I want to do something like that, I've got to make sure my hand is actually, or make sure both hands are coordinated. That's the main thing about the notes sounding good. You don't
Okay.
want it to be uncoordinated, otherwise you'll just get some scrappy, that sort of thing. So take it slow and make sure both hands are really working in tandem. Yeah. So I've had to really realize this myself as well. You know, you want to get it done quickly. You want it to happen sooner than it will. It's a bit like weight training or something. You're not going to go and get the body that you want in a week or something. You got to train for a year or 2 years or whatever. It takes time.
Well, that's it, and this is very close to my heart at the moment because I have been I, well just so everyone knows because I play in a punk band outside of teaching and a big part of punk music and the ethos is about people who can't play their people not being able to play instruments making music. So my ability as a guitar player, I feel like actually I'm a pretty good guitar player when it comes to the punk bands that we play with, so it's fine. But then recently I've been thinking I want to become more proficient, and about a year ago now I started actually practicing properly. One of the things I want to build up, Zak, is my speed as well, and I do take things slowly, but my problem I think is actually not knowing exactly like the way I should be picking. I mess around every day with we speak to all the students about bracing,
Yeah.
and I watch videos of people and how they're bracing, and everyone's doing their own thing. Like some people, we get all the students to touch here.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we can also brace by getting this part of the hand touching on the bridge and going that way as well. And I often do a mixture of both. But then I see a lot of people actually having their fingers like this and floating above the strings. How do you pick? Where's the contact when you're bracing?
For me, the contact is on the bridge, like you just said. It's like the side of my palm, and I'm
Mm,
resting on the bridge so that the pivot is my wrist. Yeah,
okay.
that's where the movement's coming from. So I'm moving like that. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
I think it's good to try everything you come across. I mean, I haven't actually seen that one that you were just saying, where people are floating above, and yet their
Mm,
faces are on the on the
mm.
actual.
Yeah.
If I try that, yeah, maybe I could get used to that. But then, how does muting come into? How do you mute the lower strings?
Well, this is exactly what I was thinking as well, and this is something kind of I want to talk about today as well as kind of a topic. But um, as, all the time I hear people, and this is a big part of bracing as well for me. If we don't brace, we can often, I don't know, I can't do it on will, but end up having a lot of extra noise from strings ringing out. I'm just playing rubbish. I'm trying to get some string noise, but I'm just playing rubbish. But yeah, I'm not sure how that works either. Yeah, because that's the thing. If anyone didn't get that, kind of what Zak's talking about there is, you know, if we started on the thickest strings and then worked our way up, as we go up, this part of the hand is touching those other strings, the strings we've played, and deadening the sound so we don't they don't ring on out and we don't get that additional noise. And this becomes Zak's got an overdriven guitar sound. I've got a bit of an overdriven guitar sound here as well. And when you've got that kind of distortion or overdrive on the guitar, then you get these heightened other frequencies coming through as well. And then any of that noise is just going to get amplified. So it's a tricky thing. I do have it's something that's come up a lot. I think it's because we've been doing the G4 teaching for a certain amount of time now, when we've got a lot of students. And let's see, I'll have a little glance at who's on here. Yeah, we got a lot of students who are coming to a really good level now. We've got some of the younger kids who are kind of junior level 2, junior level 3. We got Jason, who's was looking on earlier. His daughter Emily, for example, is really skillful now. So the students are her kind of level, and for the people like Zevkin, who's here as well, and Ruben's an excellent example. Getting to a really good solid intermediate level. And a few people have said to me they want to build their speed. And
okay,
yeah, it's something a few people have said recently. And you know, obviously, like you said, doing it slow and making sure you're doing it right. But I suppose it's how do you know that you are doing it the right way and you're not practicing hours and hours and hours the wrong way?
true, okay. I mean, a few things that work for most people. We were talking about, well, where you're going to put your hand. Like I said, I put my hand on the bridge so that I definitely pivot from the wrist. Obviously, when you're strumming, it's a big movement because you're getting strings. When you just want to play one string, you want it to be as small a movement as possible. Otherwise, you're wasting energy. So you want it to be economy of movement. So it's sort of a feeling of, I mean, this doesn't happen, but kind of like a feeling of the pick not leaving the string. You want to really keep it close to the, and you can only get that by slowing right down and controlling the movement. These things, nothing of this is natural. You're not born with these micro movements. You have to really work at it. It's difficult stuff. Picking is difficult stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And my journey, I think most people's journey is that the more experienced you get, the more you realize that the difficult thing is the picking hand. And and it's this stuff which looks flashy, which is actually the easy bit, really the easy bit. Yeah, and like I say that to especially the kids I teach, like about when they go, oh, it doesn't feel natural, and it's like, well, there's nothing in our lives we've done up to this point where we're like this. There's really nothing. Yeah, yeah. But I actually, because I've done a lot of research into kind of the picking, and that's exactly what I saw someone say is probably can't get close enough to the camera here, but for anyone who wants to play quick, something which has helped me to speed up is actually just go down, do your alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up, slowly to the metronome without the pick ever leaving the string. So actually keep it in constant contact. I know it's like it's a kind of like more extreme way of making sure you got that small movement, but just over and over, let it roll in, rolling over like that, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
I suppose something that would help as well is probably some kind of picking exercises as well. That's something I haven't given any of my students really that much. So actually, some things that you just do again and again and again and again. I suppose that's a thing as well.
As I think, although I noticed when you were picking, and I don't know if all your students know about this, but angling the pick is a good idea as well. So you don't want well, I mean, everybody's different, but generally you don't want your pick at a 90-degree angle to the strings. You want it at a more sort of, well, at a diagonal. 45 degrees.
Really like 45 degrees because of I thought it was interesting, the G4 method we teach from, that no one does this at all, and I don't do it, but they say, the way they say is that they want everyone to play classical style with the left leg up, and so keeping the pick kind of straight, and then the guitar angle. So that's the same thing, isn't it? It's like, so the strings are 45 degree and you're going this way. But obviously this feels weird for most people.
Yeah, it is. It does feel weird. But actually,
that works.
it works. So whatever you want to do. But that angling, yes, it makes it easier for the pick to move through the string, to move over the string. Yeah.
Awesome, buddy. Really, really cool. Yeah.
You know 3 note per string shapes?
This is something, so anyone, I'll just have a quick, and guys, also we are open to questions as well. So if anyone's got any questions about anything that was that's been in your minds or anything you want to learn about, please do put a question in there. Yeah, this is something. So in the G4 methods, there's 5 levels for junior and there's 5 levels for senior, and the 3 notes per string scales don't really come into play until about level 3, I don't think. So it's getting quite late, but yeah. So guys, what Zak's talking about here is kind of our scales, and having something like a C major scale, changing it so we have the same notes, but we, instead of having 1 note on this string, 3 notes on this string, 2 notes on this string, and 2 notes, having 3 notes, 3 notes, well, I suppose, and then 2, but you can carry on the position 3 notes all the way. What do you think with this, Zak? How does that
because they're symmetrical, there's always 3 notes on a string. They're very useful for picking exercises, because if you sequence them, which is, for example, say if I'm doing what's that, G major, yeah? So that sequencing is where you go up a certain amount of notes and then come back and then go up a certain amount of notes, yeah? So say, or a certain amount of strings. So say if I go up 3 and come back 1, which is in that exercise, you've gone through every permutation of when you're crossing strings. Are you picking down on the string that you're leaving and up on the string that you're going to, or vice versa? You get everything. You get each permutation of it, every variation.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I've never done that before. Okay. So So you're going down. You're doing alternate picking the whole time.
Alternate picking the whole time. So I'm going
Okay.
down, up, down, down, up, down, up. I can't say it at the same time. Basically, if you go through it and you're doing your alternate picking, so it's always the opposite of what you've done. Start with it down,
Yeah.
carry on from there. Go up 3 strings, go back one, and
Yeah.
you will go through every permutation stroke variation of crossing strings. And you know it's more difficult. For instance, when you're coming back down strings, it's more difficult to pick down on the thinner one and then pick up on the thinner one. Sorry, then pick up on the one above, the thicker one. So on the top 2 strings, the E string on the B string, if I'm picking down on the E string and up on the B string, that's generally more difficult than if you're picking up on the E string and down on the B string.
Okay.
Either moving outside of the strings or inside of the strings, sort of, or between the strings. Yeah. Moving between is generally more difficult because it's a smaller, finer movement. So just practicing that, down, up, it's quite a good exercise.
But yeah, that's brilliant. And this is in the G4 Senior 1 pick, because every lesson starts with picking exercises for 5 minutes, and the first 5 exercises are really similar to this. It's kind of like down on string 6, then up on string 5, and then the opposite, up on 6 and down on 5, then down, and so you get all of that. But it's I know everyone finds it boring, and most people don't do it, I'm sure, when they practice, but it's really helped my playing a lot. After doing, at the beginning of most of the G4 lessons, doing those picking exercises, I was like, oh God, this is a bit boring doing this every time. And then after 3 months, my picking had improved more in those 3 months than the last 10 years, just from doing a few minutes every day. So yeah, this is something, this exercise that you've done, Zak, this is something I'm happy to tab out for students if anyone's interested in that, and they can have a document with that on there.
And just like you said, it doesn't need to be for long. You could do it 5 minutes a day, which, if you hate those sort of exercises, you could do 5 minutes, and really it will help. So yeah.
And I think that's with my kind of mindset as well, because I've always been the kind of person where it's like, I did a lot of art when I was younger, kind of just drawing and stuff, and I never really started something and then at the end of the day put it away and then come back to it. I always wanted to finish it. If I started, I wanted to finish it then, and that's gone into my guitar playing as well. And I feel like I'm trying to build up some speed, and I've got this metronome. I'm eyeing up 160 beats per minute, and it's like I want to get there today, so I end up binging, and it just becomes demoralizing when I should just do kind of 5 minutes a day, just on this a little bit faster every day.
Absolutely, yeah, and also. Yeah. It won't sound good fast if you can't do it slow. I mean, I've had to learn that the hard way. And if you think of a player like Hank Marvin, or even, I mean, he's really good. Or even the guy from Pink Floyd, I can't think.
Dave Gilmour.
I mean, he's a more advanced player, but he doesn't play fast. But it's beautiful, And each note sounds good. And if the notes don't sound good. If it's scrappy, then it's not going to sound good when you make it faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing with practicing to the metronome as well, because of certainly when I was a teenager, I was not interested in playing chords because of, in my head, I didn't want to be a rhythm guitar player. I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix. Well, even though Jimmy did loads of rhythm and loads of chords, but I wanted to be doing guitar solos. Yeah. And then, I've realized over time that actually you need that strong rhythm for the lead work as well. There's rhythm in everything, and it is the most important thing. My students, anyone who's watching this, I'm sure sick of me saying this, but I would much rather anyone play the wrong notes perfectly on time than the correct notes out of time.
Yeah.
There's even a record, I will share it at some point. It's a band called At the Drive-In. They released this record in the 90s, and recently someone's put online the solo of the audio of just the guitars, and they are so out of tune. It's unbelievable how out of tune these guitars are. But I've never ever noticed before. The rhythm and the vibe and the groove of everything is just so spot on that the guitars are out of tune. Fine. Cool. Cool, dude. I've got something which actually a few students have been asking me about for a really long time, and I just see that Anita just said yes please tab for Ruben, so I don't need to make a note. I'll look at this later and we'll get that next week or the week after. Probably I'll be able to whip that up. Something a lot of students have been talking about is string muting. Yeah, it's and this is a really very important part of how I play guitar. Anything I play of like my own songs will always be this kind of these kind of you can see I'm not being accurate with my pick. Everything is kind of strummy, but you just hear one or two notes at a time. These kind of things, and there is the best example I could come up with, because I did a lot of research into this, because of I think you're like this with your fast picking, Zak, where it's like in terms of actually obviously a lot of thoughts gone into it, but the main thing is that it's just over years and years of practice that you figured out all of these micro movements to be able to do what you can do. And I bet there's a lot of stuff physically which is happening which you're not conscious of. In a way, it's in there and you're doing it. I bet when you change strings, there's quite a bit of you know, for the fast change kind of pick movement as well, which I've never done that practice. But this muting is like that for me. No one ever showed me how to do it. So then once students asked me about it, it was very hard to go back and go like, oh, actually, how do we do this? How do we do this? But I've got an example here. The best piece of music I could find to explain this was a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, Can't Stop. So I went online, and I'm sharing this now. I hope that can come up for people. This is just the first little bit of it. So I went online, I looked up the tab, and that's what comes up. It's less than half the story, I would say, because if you played that, it'll be that's the sound. That's what's written. But you listen to the record, and it's very different. One of those sounds like someone who's learning to play the guitar, and one of them sounds like someone who's got a real handle of the instrument. And when I started actually thinking about this and breaking it down, there is a lot to think about. So what we've got here, guys, is I'm just going to talk about the very first note, because we only got kind of 5 minutes, and I want Zak to jump in if there's anything you can enlighten us with here, mate. Just this very first note, this seventh fret on the 5th string. What I'm doing to get that sound of this these muted strings is I'm obviously playing this with my first finger, but I'm muting every single other string. So if I strum every single string, we just hear one note. But we've got 5 strings which are being muted, as well as giving you that kind of nice ability just to kind of not worry about it and kind of strum and not have to stand there picking and being able to rock out. Is it gives you this sound as well, these additional notes of kind of percussiveness, if you like. So this is something I'd like some of the students to try, and I'll share this tab with everyone as well, anyone who wants it. Is this first hit, I'm pressing down on the 5th string 7th fret to get that note, and you can see, and this is also a big thing here, is we teach everyone teaches everyone to have really nice high finger positions for chords, so that all the strings ring out. The more advanced we get, the more we have to kind of break and bend these rules. because of this, we want to have a lazy hand position, and I want to be, this first finger, I want to be touching all of the other strings. So they're all muted by that finger, so we don't get any of the others ringing out. And with the 6th string, I'm touching it with the tip of my finger there, just like that. And it's one of those things as well about the perception, Zach, of like, I remember when I was when I was at school, if someone could do like just some hammer-ons and pull-offs, I'd be like, whoa, that's so cool, that looks amazing and hard. If someone just said, look how good I am, I could do that. This is a hell of a lot harder than...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you use it much, this kind of muted?
Yeah, very much. Basically, I also play bass, and a similar thing is what this guy calls the at-rest position. So let's see. When you're playing like that, you really want your first finger to be as muting as many strings as possible. So say if I'm playing the octave thing, the only notes ringing out are the ones I'm fretting, and just like you were saying, the underside of the fingers mute the thinner strings, and then the tip of my finger is muting that E string. And if I was doing it, say, on the top, 3 strings, and I couldn't mute these with these fingers, I'd mute the thicker strings with the karate chop side of my palm here.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, see, this has always been tricky for me, this little bit. I end up actually having a kind of middle finger go over and touch those sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of people bring their thumb over sometimes to do this thickest one, but my thumb doesn't bend over in the right way.
Yeah, people come up with different things that suit their particular, that suit their hand. Yeah, absolutely. Some people would do what you're doing with the middle fingers. Yeah. Anything that works and doesn't hurt your hand is good technique. So.
Brilliant, I like that. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, cool, mate. So with this one, guys, it's exactly that business. I'll go through every single part of this bit by bit. I suppose after you've done this next bit, I'll just show the next couple of notes. Basically, the first finger is going to stay where it is for the next note, but then the pressure is going to come off, so it's muting all the strings. And the second finger then will be able to press down on the third string 7th fret to hit that note. And that's probably something I reckon, Zach, with anyone who hasn't done this before, probably that's going to be a lot to practice for a while.
Muting is much more difficult than you think to like what you're doing. Just get one string and you're strumming everything to get that percussive. And everything else, sometimes I'll find myself, I've got string noise. It's difficult stuff, yeah.
I didn't really mention to anyone here as well. Zak is an absolutely phenomenal, apart from phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal bass guitar player as well. And mate, this is something. This is because I've been playing more bass guitar recently, and the excess string noise is something I've really been struggling with. If I do the kind of chromatic exercise coming down on a bass or going up, I've really struggled to stop the lower notes from ringing out. Would you do the same thing? Bring your hand in, or how would you deal with that?
On bass, I usually do. People on bass so often rest their thumb either on the pickup, lower string if they're picking the high. Well, if I'm getting to the higher strings and I've got bass strings ringing out, can you see this? I'll just put my thumb and I'll have a moving. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
That mutes everything. You got to adjust slightly. It doesn't feel exactly the same as having your thumb resting on a string, but the side of your thumb on a string, as a guitarist will do in their percussive hit like that. But you're still picking with fingers 1 and 2. And the side of the thumb is muting the lower strings, yeah? And of course, the string directly above gets muted by your fingers doing the rest stroke.
Buddy, that is fantastic. That's probably I think that's probably a bit of a life-changing tip for me in my bass playing. So I'm going to be trying that out. Thank you very much. I'm just having a little look here of if because guys, we're going to wrap up now. It's been just over half an hour, and we're trying to keep these to no longer than half an hour or 35 minutes, really. I've got one message from Sevkin here. Hi, Zak. With all your knowledge of guitar playing, learning, and teaching, what 3 things would you tell your new playing self? So I suppose if you could go back and visit young Zak and give him some tips, what would you say?
First one would be become an accountant, because apart from that, one, really practice everything slowly. You will thank yourself for it. 2, I know practice can be boring, so maybe practice licks. Like the other day, I was practicing to a backing track. I wanted to practice my Dorian. I don't want to just do scales. And when you're playing, when you're making music, you're not just doing scales. So I was improvising along to the backing track, and when I found that I was doing something that I couldn't do properly, like maybe I wanted to do a rake and it wasn't coming out, or I wanted to do something like that and it didn't work, I'd stop and I'd work on my technique so that I could do a phrase that I kind of heard or felt, but I didn't have the technique to do.
Yeah, brilliant. I think there's a lot in that, buddy, because firstly, it's about actually honing in on the areas which are challenging and your weaknesses. And so often, when we've got a piece for someone to learn, there's one tricky bit, and you start at the beginning and you just go through and you play all the bits you can play already well over and over and over, and the bit that you can't do, you don't practice it. It probably needs 100 to 1,000 times or whatever to do it, and you won't get that practice if you start at the beginning every time. Also, I think a big thing, which is a gigantic topic, which we'll definitely explore next time, because we should stop now, is you're talking there about you coming up with an idea of something you want to play before you actually play it. So your hands aren't guiding you. You are thinking of ideas and then kind of singing them out with your guitar. Just as a quick side note, something I've been doing to help my progression in this way is I've been singing along with when I've been practicing. So if I've just been doing a simple scale, I've been kind of da, 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 da. So if I know I want to hit that da sound, then I've got this physical connection with, I know where that note is. Are there any kind of exercises or anything you do in that regard to help you with those kind of topics?
I suppose the main thing I do is like, the typical thing of you're at the bus stop or you're away from your instrument, you hear some music in your head, if you're lucky enough to hear music in your head, and then you go back to the guitar and you try and work it out. Okay. And quite often it'll come up that I'm not really hearing something in my head, it's just I'm in the moment improvising, and it'll be a feel. I haven't heard the phrase and then I try and play it, but I've just got a feel that I suddenly want to do a quick bend. And in a way, the notes don't matter. It's more the feeling of diddly diddly da.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Following that, even if it's not perfectly delineated in your head, something that you feel and you try and translate to the instrument. But I think what you said was really important. I did too much of that when I first started. I played stuff that I could already do because that's fun. And by all means, have fun when you're picking up your instrument. Otherwise, what's the point? But spend just a little time at the limits of your ability. Even if it's 5 minutes, pushing it at the limits. Don't do it all the time. Otherwise, it'll just be a chore.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got so many students. It's usually the younger students who the two things that I've witnessed many students try and avoid. One is bar chords, because by the time we show students bar chords, it's the point where they can already do their chords really nicely, so they can have fun with them. And then all of a sudden, it's not fun to have to stop and do this and get a rubbish sound out of the instrument. But a bit of time for that, because if everything will be more fun when we can do these things. The other is using the little finger, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So many students who have, you know, really stubbornly tried to go ahead and say, I'm going to be a great guitar player without ever using my little finger, because it feels icky right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a very final thing.
Yeah.
Belief that it will happen, because it can feel like I'll never be able to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
I think most of my guitar life feeling I'd never be able to pick fast, because I just kind of didn't get on with it. Really, the type of music I like doesn't involve it. So in a way, but I wanted to do it for some strange reason.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
If you persist, it will come, and it takes time, and that's the thing. You know, it won't come this week. It won't come next week. Whatever, 3 years, it will come. If you keep doing it, it will come. And to have the belief that that will happen, rather than, oh, I can't do it. Yes, you can, actually. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, buddy. Awesome. Well, guys, we're going to finish up there today. Thank you for everyone who's been watching. And I hope that I went through and saw, didn't miss any questions that anyone put out there. I see Rick was watching as well. Hey, Rick. Hey, buddy. Hope you're well. And thanks everyone who's been in here. Zak, thanks so much for your time today, buddy, and joining us with this one. It's been a blast.
Nice to see you. Good to be here.
And we're going to stop going live now, guys. So if I can stop the stream, if I can figure this out, and we'll see you later. Have a good one.